Emily was in labor with our third child. Things were progressing the way that they're supposed to. And then my phone buzzed. It was our realtor. She had found a property she thought that fit exactly what we were looking for and sent me a video walkthrough. Now, I want to be clear that I did not immediately pull out my phone and start analyzing real estate numbers while my wife was in labor. I waited a reasonable amount of time, maybe 2 minutes. And then I watched the video. I ran the numbers in my head. I knew what we needed in a property because we had done this enough times that the criteria was locked in. And I turned to Emily, who was, again, in active labor, and I asked if she was okay with us making an offer. She said yes, so I quickly texted my realtor, who then asked if I wanted to see the property first, and I explained our current situation. She laughed and probably was wondering what on earth I was doing, but put the offer in anyways. We bought the house sight unseen while my wife was giving birth to our third child. When I finally walked through the front door a few days later, here's what I found. Old carpets with a stain so large I wondered if someone had passed out right in front of there and maybe died. Multiple layers of wallpaper stacked on top of each other like a geological sediment. A bathtub and a shade that hadn't existed since approximately 1974. The basement was also in rough shape, carpet in the kitchen of the basement suite, water damage through one of the bedroom, a crack in the concrete that needed repair, and a window that needed to be cored out entirely to make the bedroom actually legal. It was not good at all, and I loved every single piece of it. Here's the thing about a house like that. Most people walk through and see the problems. The stain, the wallpaper, the gross bathtub. They see work, costs, risk, and complication, and they keep moving. I walked through and saw what it could be. Not because I have some special gift for renovation. I don't. Ask anyone who's watched me attempt basic repairs. I shouldn't be trusted with a hammer. But I've learned to separate what something is right now and from what it's capable of becoming. And that is an entirely different skill set. The BRRRR method, you buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat, is at its core a philosophy about potential. You find something that has been overlooked, undervalued, or neglected. You do the work to bring out what was already there, and then you capture the value that the work created and you use it to go and do it again. 1 month after we bought that house, the project was done. We refinanced it. We pulled out almost everything for equity that was in, and we moved forward and did another deal. Property is now cash flowing every month, the mortgage is being paid down by the tenants, and the value continues to build. We didn't make a quick profit and move on. We built something that keeps working. But the longer I've done this, the more I've realized that the way I look at a rundown house is the same way I try to look at people. Every week I sit down for a 30-minute coaching session with each person on my team. I alternate the agenda. 1 week I come with things we need to work through together, performance, development, goals. The next week is theirs. They bring whatever they want to talk about. Sometimes it's work. Sometimes it's how to get control of their finances. Sometimes it's something entirely personal that has nothing to do with their job description, like how do I ask out a girl? What I've noticed across those conversations consistently is that people don't see their own potential. They see the water damage and the outdated carpet and the crack in the foundation. They've absorbed a story about themselves, usually from somewhere early in their life, that tells them what they're capable of. And that story almost always undersells them. My job in those conversations is to do what I do when I walk through a house. See what's actually there underneath the surface problems. Find the thing that has been overlooked or undervalued and find a way to show it to the person who owns it. The parallel isn't perfect. People are not properties. The stakes are different and the timeline is different and the relationship is obviously different. But the fundamental posture is the same. Most people move through life the way most buyers move through a rough property. They see the problems first and they keep moving. They don't stop long enough to ask, what could this potentially be? I want to be the person who stops. The BRRRR method also taught me something about the difference between quick wins and the compound value. When you're renovating a property, there are always places where you can cut corners. Skip the proper concrete repair, leave the water damage, paint over, put in cheaper finishes that look fine for now, Every one of those decisions saves money in the short term, but it costs more in the long term because the problem doesn't go away, it hides. And when it comes back worse and more expensive, and at a moment you didn't plan for it. I've applied that same thinking to every area of my life that matters. The quick version of a difficult conversation is to avoid it. The compound version is to have it now while the crack is small. The quick version of a financial decision is to buy the thing that feels good today. But the compound version is to ask what this decision looks like 5 years from now. The quick version of a relationship is to manage the surface and not deal with what's actually underneath. But the compound version is to do the work. So you need to hire the right people for the right job. Don't cut corners on the things that matter. The work you skip today becomes the problem you can't avoid tomorrow. The BRRRR method works as a philosophy because it forces a specific kind of thinking at every stage. Buy. You have to train your eye to see what others miss. This takes time and repetition. The first few times I walked through a rough property, I wasn't sure what I was looking at. But over time, the eye develops. You learn what's cosmetic and what's structural. You learn what can be fixed for a reasonable cost and what will swallow your budget. You stop reacting to what you see on the surface and start asking what's underneath. In people terms, this is a discipline of curiosity over judgment. When someone on my team is struggling, the easy read is the surface. The missed deadline, the drop ball, the attitude in the meeting. The better question is, what's underneath that? What's the crack in the concrete nobody has addressed? What's the water damage that got painted over? Next is renovate. This is the work nobody sees. The walls are opened up, the problems are exposed, the mess gets worse before it gets better. Anyone who's ever been through renovation knows there's a point in the middle where it looks like you've made everything worse. That's not a sign you made a mistake. That's just what the middle of the process actually looks like. The same is true in any meaningful development, personal, professional, relational. There's always a middle stage where things feel more exposed and more uncertain than they did before you started. That's not failure. That's the renovation happening. Next is rent. Now, the asset is working. It's generating something. And here's the thing. The quality of the work that you did in the renovation determines the quality of the return you get in this stage. A properly done renovation attracts good tenants. It minimizes problems and it holds its value. A corner cut renovation attracts problems. In life terms, the quality of the investment you make in someone, in a skill, in a relationship, in your own character determines the quality of what comes back. You cannot shortcut the work and expect full returns. Then we have refinance. This is where you capture the value that was always there and was brought out by the work. You get to see on paper what the transformation actually created, and then you take that value and you go do it again. The compounding is the point. One deal leads to the next. One conversation, one coaching moment, one investment in a person leads to the next. You're not trying to win once. You're building something that keeps building. And lastly, repeat. This is the part most people miss. The method only works if you do it again. One renovated property is a project. 10 is a portfolio. One good coaching conversation is a moment. A year of them is a culture. Consistency over time is what separates a result from a legacy. When I walked through that house, the one we bought while my wife brought life into this world, the one with the gross bathtub and the wallpaper and the water damage, I wasn't thinking about philosophy. I was thinking about square footage and rental comps and what the renovation would cost. But somewhere along the way of thinking that real estate required of me started showing up in everything else. The discipline of looking past the surface, the patience from the middle of the process when things look worse before they look better, the refusal to cut corners on the things that matter, the understanding that the value doesn't show up all at once. It builds slowly over time through work that often nobody sees. The houses I bought taught me how to look at people, and the people I've coached have taught me things about the houses. And somewhere in the middle of it all, I realized this was the same skill set. See what's actually there. Do the work. Don't cut the corners. Trust the compounding. Most people walk past the rough property, Most people give up on people when the surface problems are too visible. Most people take the quick win when the slow build is available. But the slow build is where everything worth having actually comes from. So here's what I want to ask you. Is there something in your life right now, a person, a project, a part of yourself that you've been walking past because all you can see is the surface problems? What would change if you stopped and asked, what could be different? What could it become? If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to help me build it by leaving a review. Your voice matters, and what you share about this podcast could be the deciding factor, whether someone clicks to listen or scrolls past. Thank you.